What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another weather forecast here by Adrian's Weather Forecast. This is my second video of today, and we are going to be covering something a bit different. In this evening's video, we're going to be talking about the potential for a huge severe weather event on day 4, or going to be most likely talking about Monday on really the 29th to the 30th. We have that big potential for severe weather that can very well become something very big for the northern and central plains here. So the severe weather is yet back in the northern and central plains, including the Dakotas, Nebraska, Minnesota, even portions of Kansas. We can possibly have a severe weather threat. This could very well be enhanced or maybe even moderate, but it's still a little too far to talk about really level wise. But that we can't rule out the possibility of that being issued. In today's video, we're going to be obviously talking about the timing, who could see the worst, and also going to be seeing the probability of this becoming a huge potential, maybe even tornado outbreak or severe weather outbreak here, because we also have that big possibility for maybe July 1st being something as well. So day 4 and day 5 are the main day of focus here. We're also going to be briefly talking about the day 2 outlook for Iowa tomorrow. That could possibly have maybe as of now have slight, but maybe even enhanced. But before we get the video, please hit a subscribe button to show your awesome support, maybe even that like button to let me know that you like this video, and also be free to share the video to anybody that you know that could possibly be affected by the severe weather on day 4 or Monday. But without further ado, let's get this video. Alright, so here we are looking at the day 4 outlook here on the Storm Prediction Center here, or SPC, and as you see, they've highlighted a very big area for the general plains of the United States here for day 4, or for all the way from the Tuesday the 30th to Wednesday on the 1st of July. So really, Tuesday, Monday, those areas are also the big areas of severe weather, but really Tuesday to Wednesday is also that big day where we have potentially maybe have an enhanced risk. But as you see, they've highlighted a very widespread area with almost around 1.5 million people under a 15% chance for severe weather. So that could very well mean by tomorrow we can maybe even have a slight risk for day 3, maybe day 2 we have an enhanced risk, maybe by day 1 we could have a moderate risk, but that's still a little too far from now, but can't rule out the possibility for a high ranking here, maybe above a level 3. So we have areas like Bismarck, Grand Island, Minot, Kearney, and North Platte. You guys are under that potential for severe weather, also including Grand Forks, also including areas like Michelle, maybe including portions near Valentine, and also even portions of Colorado. Can't rule out the possibility for having an extension on this highlighted area, but of course it's still around almost 3 days out of. So that's obviously still going to change a couple times with these updates. But now let's go and check out now the radar, check out the Cape Valleys, all the factors that come in for severe weather events to happen. And later in the video, we'll be talking about the wind shear as well if we have a low-level jet favorable of bringing in severe weather. So here we are taking a look at the Cape Valleys here on the pivotal weather here, which seems to be decently accurate here as well. We also look at the page. But as you see, this is the 29th, which is Monday. That's when we're going to start seeing this high amount of energy entering here in the Midwest and portions of the Central Plains. The 29th is when we have the energy kind of coming to place. We're going to possibly see some semi-discrete or discrete cells here, maybe even a couple of supercells and spotty supercells here for portions of Iowa, Minnesota, and South Dakota. But the 30th was that big day. But the 29th is when we start to have the energy flowing in the atmosphere, favorable of bringing in some systems that could develop here, whether it's semi-discrete or supercells, and this can bring in a lot of instability in the atmosphere. We're going to bring in overday heating, humidity, and even some high amount of helicity, actually. So very favorable conditions. Let me just tell you that, favorable conditions for having something to develop here. As we get now more into closer into the 30th, that's when energy really starts to skyrocket. Could get very close to 6,000 joules per kilogram, if not 5,000 joules per kilogram for a portion of the Midwest or the Northern Plains, however you want to call that region. As you see, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, even portions of Wisconsin, and even Kansas. You guys are going to be under some really high amounts or decent amounts of energy that could very well bring in some strong storms, QLCSs, squall lines, supercells. All those are likely here. As you see, portions and very detailed into portions of South Dakota, we have 5,400 joules per kilogram. Portions of North Dakota, 5,100 joules per kilogram. portion of Minnesota surpassing 5,300 joules per kilogram. And as you see, we have a very widespread area that is above 4,000 joules per kilogram. So in general, we have a very widespread area of severe weather. And this is still on the 29th. As we now get into the 30th, look at the 30th. This is now the 30th, which is a Tuesday. Like I said, Monday is going to bring the energy, but the 30th is when it blows up here. It's not, this very well most likely won't cap out. So this means we can very well see these strong storms continue to develop. Because if it doesn't cap out, that means it won't fall apart, especially since we have possibly a huge low-level jet bringing a ton of wind shear here, which is obviously going to bring in a bit of a higher probability for severe weather. So this is the 30th here, as you see, surpassing 6,000 joules per kilogram for portions of the northern plains. The higher amounts of Cape will be for most likely the North Dakota area, surpassing 6,100 joules per kilogram, getting around 6,100, 6,200 even likely here for North Dakota as of right now. And then we have a very widespread area of beyond 4,000 joules per kilogram. Even all the way to Oklahoma, we're surpassing 4,000 joules per kilogram by a mile, seeing up to 4,800 joules per kilogram for portions of Oklahoma, even possibly 5,000 joules per kilogram for Illinois. So day 4 is going to be a very, very big day of severe weather. Obviously, the worst of it will be in the northern plains, but we can see a very widespread, marginal, if not slight risk for portions of the southern plains and even more closer to the Great Lakes. So very, very good amounts of energy here on Cape values. And then by the 30th here, we start to see those numbers dying down and getting into the 3,000s. And then by July 1st, we have a huge amount of numbers of Cape values all the way from Texas to the Canada border. We'll be seeing beyond 5,000 joules per kilogram. So day 5, that's July 1st. That's when it gets a bit further out there. So we're not going to be really talking about anything beyond or anything past June 30th here. But let me just tell you, July 1st can also be something very interesting. Like I said, we can very well have a multi-severe weather outbreak likely from June to July. So we're going to be monitoring that very closely. Now let's go and check out now the SCP, check out Helicity, and even also going to be checking out the NAM3KM and HRRR models. Alright guys, so here we are taking a look at the Helicity here. Obviously the higher amounts of Helicity, obviously the better or more favorable for severe weather. So this is now looking at June 30th in the morning. We're going to be seeing some amount of Helicity, a decent amount of Helicity entering areas of the northern plains, and it skyrockets from there. As it's pretty self-explanatory why it's going to blow up. Going to have beyond 700 here on the Helicity, 679, and then 718. So there's very, very good numbers. Let me just tell you that. And then these numbers go in exact areas where I can very well see that huge area of severe weather. So it's still 4 days out. But first of all, the SPC has the confidence of having a 15% chance already. And then also now everything's adding up. We have the Cape values are adding up. The Helicity is adding up. Now, obviously, the SDP is going to add up. But here we have some very good numbers here right now. Surpassing 800 here. Surpassing 800 for portions of the North Dakota and South Dakota region there for Helicity. And then it kind of dies down from there. But maybe some good numbers of Helicity out in the southern plains July 1st, which is where I mentioned we can possibly have some very interesting. Now let's go and check out now, possibly looking at the SCP or Supercell composite parameter right now. Alright, so here we are looking at the Supercell composite parameter here, or composite parameter, however you want to call that. As you see, this is the 28th of June. So this is actually tomorrow. This is actually the evening of the 28th. We're going to be seeing some good amounts of severe weather, maybe a 10 on the SCP, maybe even surpassing a bit of 17. For people who really know how SCP works, it's measuring the probability or likelihood of having a supercell, which obviously brings in very strong winds, tornadoes, large hail. Anything, in my opinion, anything higher than 20 is considered a very good probability for a supercell. Doesn't mean it's going to guarantee, it's just based on the graph, it's a very good number. So anything higher than 20 or 25 is very good. So that's the 28th. As we get to the 29th, we're going to be seeing some very good numbers here. As you see, we have 25 here for portions of Illinois, for Iowa. And in the morning of the 29th, we have 19 already, possibly 20 on the SCP for portions of the North Dakota area. And then as we get to the 29th here, we have a 70. A 70, obviously, that seems a very very weird to have a 70 just out like that in the middle of North Dakota. Obviously, it looks pretty weird there. But 70, wow, that's crazy. But obviously, that seems to be a little bit overdoing it because I've never seen anything really higher than a 60, really anything higher than a 55. So obviously, don't believe that 70 as of right now. Obviously, still a couple days out. So the fact that they had the confidence to put a 70 out is interesting and a little kind of coincidence. But this is why we're monitoring this day 4 and really closely, as we have the confidence here to put a 70. But obviously that's going to change, maybe most likely for the better, getting to maybe a 50 or 45 on the SCP, because that seems to be really overdoing it. I've never seen anything close to a 70, and this is days out. So don't believe that really as an out. So don't go in the comments saying, oh my god, we're going to be seeing a high risk, we have a 70 on the SCP. Don't go ahead and start spreading the false news like that. And as we get to the 30th, obviously don't believe everything. It's a 70, it's going to change, it's still a couple days out. Now let's talk about the 30th, the Tuesday. That's the big day. That's the big day of this severe weather event. We're going to be seeing some already good amounts of numbers here, surpassing 20, surpassing 25 on the morning of the 30th. And then later on in the 30th, and even July 1st, going to possibly most likely surpass that area of 14, 16, 23, 28. We're going to be seeing some very good SCP numbers. Now let's go and check out now the HRRR model on the COD or College of DuPage, and then we're going to be looking at the NAN3KM on the tropical tidbits. So we're still a bit too far out to look at the COD for the day 4 outlook, but we're going to be monitoring the probability for some really strong storms in the next coming hours here for North Dakota here. Very strong potential linear storms out here. Most likely it won't be derechos, won't be really squall lines in my opinion, or it could be a squall line, but it's going to be very weak. But we're going to be monitoring some really strong storms likely here for North Dakota and the northern plains later today or into tomorrow. But this is going to be the exact area. The reason why I'm showing you this is this is going to be the exact area of the severe weather for the day 4 outlook here. This could very well be the potential for that big probability of something out here. So as you see, we can see some really strong QLCSs, squall lines, supercells likely in a linear pattern like we saw early June. We saw those tornadoes stretching from South Dakota to North Dakota. This could be the exact same thing. We're going to be seeing those tornadoes maybe stretching from Nebraska to North Dakota. That's exactly why we're going to be seeing some linear supercells in a line, just like what we're seeing here on the next hour or so. It would be something like that. A little bit bigger though. We're going to be seeing kind of some really strong squall lines or QLCSs. Now let's go and check out the NAN3KM model. So here we are looking at the NAN3KM model here for a tropical tidbit, and then the last thing we'll be looking at is wind shear after this. So we're going to be wrapping up the video very soon. So as you see though, we're going to be, like I said, we're going to briefly talk about the day 2 outlook, or tomorrow will be day 1 for Iowa. Could very well maybe even have most likely, or the worst outcome will be an enhanced risk here for Iowa. Maybe even Nebraska can be seeing really strong squall lines likely, producing some very large hail. But let's go and look at the northern plains here. The 29th, very strong storms are already developing for North Dakota. Like I said, the 29th the Monday the 29th could bring some really strong severe weather, some spotty storms. Maybe a slight risk is likely. But when it comes to the 30th, that's when things start to really become strong. Obviously, the NAN3KM model can't go as far out, but it goes 60 hours out. But 56 hours from now, on June 30th, the Tuesday, we start to see some very, very strong storms developing here. We're having a low pressure system at 994 millibars. So we're going to have some really high amounts of energy here. And look at this. As you see in the next 60 hour, though, the 60th hour, there's going to be a huge long track QLCS here, or a long track squall line will be likely. And then we have a low pressure system on the 60th hour developing at 999 millibars for Nebraska. So that can connect some really strong QLCSs, and the strongest storms will obviously be in the afternoon and evening when you have that whole day of overday heating. So obviously you don't see the strongest storms in the morning. You see the strongest storms in the evening or afternoon, like we saw yesterday in the enhanced risk and for the Great Lakes. Now, last thing we'll be looking at is that potential low-level jet or huge amounts of wind shear coming to northern plains at the exact moment, exact direction, exact region. It's going to be really, everything's going to be playing out. So here we are looking at the wind shear here. As you see, this is the 29th. This is the 29th, or the Monday of that day before the big severe weather event. As you see, we have a ton of wind shear coming from the southwest here, bringing a low-level jet from all the way from portions of British Columbia through the Pacific Northwest to portions of the general Western Plains. Going to be seeing a huge amount of low-level flow. Going to be seeing a low pressure system developing beyond this wind shear. So we're going to be seeing multiple chances of having low pressure systems to develop here. So multiple chances for severe storms. As you see on the 30th, which is the day of this, we're going to be seeing the 30th. This is basically where we see that severe weather on the 30th, basically right here. And as you see, the wind shear is right just outside of that circle. So perfect scenario to have these strong QLCS and squall lines to develop here. With see, look at this, very favorable 76 knots, 78 knots, even 81 knots here for portions of Montana and Wyoming. And it's going to go right over the Great Plains and the Northern Plains by June 30th or July 1st. Perfect scenario. The reason why May was so quiet, for those people wondering, is because all those events that we saw barely had any wind shear flow, which means obviously limiting that probability for tornadoes. But Easter outbreak, for example, we had a very impressive low jet. Then we saw 180 plus tornadoes. I'm not saying we're going to be seeing 180 plus tornadoes, but what I'm saying is we have a greater probability for tornadoes on just based on common sense when we have wind shear here in the higher atmosphere there to possibly also going to prevent that capping, which is that warm air aloft in the higher atmosphere, which will obviously, you want to have the flip-flop. You want to have cooler temperatures in the higher atmosphere and then warmer temperatures on the surface, and that's where you have the potential for rotation of the cooler and warmer air and all that. But as you see, basically in general, in the recap is we're going to be seeing very favorable conditions for severe weather, most likely for early next week, from Monday to possibly Wednesday or Thursday. Recap, we also have high amounts of CAPE, helicity, and supercell composite parameters all there. And also we have the wind shear. We have four factors, four important factors, actually beyond four, because CAPE has multiple factors inside of that. We have four or more factors in the severe weather that are going to kind of basically make this likely. Hope you guys did enjoy this video though. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to show your awesome support. I will have another update on this potential severe weather outbreak later tomorrow as well. And I might even have another Saharan dust forecast as well tomorrow. So stay tuned for those awesome uploads. And tomorrow I will have a very exciting community post that is winter related. So please stay tuned for that and stay monitored for that as well, because it's going to be a poll and it's winter related. So stay tuned for that community post tomorrow. Hope you guys did enjoy the video and enjoy your evening, and bye guys.